Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining Smart Women Talk. I'm your host, Katana Abbott, and this is where I search the world for smart women and a few good men, including best-selling authors, thought leaders, and change agents who are on that leading edge. So we have topics like money, business, health, inspiration, and the metaphysical. So I'm very excited today because I get a chance to finally interview best-selling author and founder and president of Yes to Success seminars. So you've probably heard about them. Her name is Debra Poneman, and we're going to talk about how to take your power back. So we're going to talk about what's preventing you from living in your power, why women tend to compromise themselves more than men, and steps you can take beginning today to live the life you were meant to live. So let me just tell you a little bit about Debra. For 4 decades, Debra's been, she's a best-selling author and founder of Yes to Success. She's been doing this for 4 decades. And she has a phenomenal program that I've actually attended, and it was really life-changing. In fact, I just want to share that I've had a couple of people say they've seen a huge change in me, and it's always wonderful. So her program she's taught hundreds of thousands around the world how to live lives not only of success and abundance, but true happiness and profound self-love. Debra's clients have used her formula to become mega successful entrepreneurs, renowned transformational leaders, New York Times bestselling authors, impactful world changers, millionaires and billionaires. Some of them are even household names. Yet Debra feels her greatest accomplishment is not just that she's helped so many people live their dreams, but she has helped them know how glorious they truly are and how they can most powerfully contribute to the world, to a world that works for everyone. And I can tell you, I just feel that Debra's just, she's like my spiritual coach. So anyway, you're in for just a wonderful surprise. And I want to welcome you, Debra. Thanks for agreeing to be on the show.
Thank you so much. You know, I've been looking forward to this. I think we talked for the first time about doing this maybe 6 months ago. Mm-hmm. And now the day is finally here, and it's the day after International Women's Day. And it's just so perfect. And thank you for inviting me.
And you are one of our Smart Women, Empower Women partners. And anyone who comes, I just want to mention they can come to joinsmartwomen.com. And that's our short URL we made. And it will take you to our community where you can join absolutely free and receive our wonderful theme-based newsletters. You'll also be able to access the Smart Women Academy, where we have 20 experts right now who have contributed fantastic gifts, and you are one of them. So one of the things, we have great gifts, so you should go to joinsmartwomen.com and make sure that you go to the Smart Women Empower Women resource area, and then you can access Debra's gift. So Debra, okay, I want you to share your story because it's really remarkable. You must have been a baby when you started this program, but we always love people to share their story because we do bring men here too. It's been a while, but I want to hear your story. Like, how in the heck did you end up creating this program? Because you created Yes for Success many, many decades ago, and it was before internet and everything. How did you fall into that? Because I really think that was your purpose and you found it early.
You know, it's interesting about that. You said I was a baby. I was teaching meditation for 10 years before I started Yes to Success. Actually, this year is going to be my 50-year anniversary of teaching meditation. So I'm very proud of that. Meditating regularly for 50 years and have taught thousands of people around the world. But that actually dovetails perfectly into my story, because at the end of the decade of the 70s, I realized that woman does not live by mantra alone, and that I probably needed to make some money. And how I started Yes to Success was that I was living in a meditation community in Fairfield, Iowa. And I realized that I had to go do something really to make a few bucks, because it was a nonprofit and I loved what I was doing. I was actually the director of admissions at the time of Maharishi International University. But again, it was bare. I needed health insurance. I needed car insurance, maybe even a car to insure. So I thought, okay, where do people make a lot of money? I thought, Los Angeles. So I packed my bags and I went, hey, that's what it looked like on the TV, although I never watched TV. But anyway, so I go to Los Angeles and I thought, how do people make money? They sell investments. So I got a job with a friend who had an investment firm. It was not my deal at all. I mean, if I believed in failure, I would say I was a failure, but I believe that every seeming failure is just a way to learn what not to do next time. And I know what not to do next time. Don't sell investments because if you're Debra Poneman. But anyway, we also, there's that expression, you make plans and God laughs. My plan was to make a whole lot of money selling investments and go back and teach meditation full time. But one day, somebody invited me to a money seminar, and I thought it was going to be on stocks and bonds. But when I walked in, and this is in the 1980s, the guy was talking about the law of attraction. This was like 30 some years before, 40 years, I guess, before the, maybe 30 years before The Secret came out. And he was saying that whatever your dominant thought is, like no matter what your financial situation is, if you are always talking about how poor you are and you're never going to get out of debt and the economy is so horrible and, I'll always be poor and my parents were poor, you are going to draw poor into your life. The guy said that if it's like a tuning fork, if a tuning fork is vibrating at an F sharp, it cannot draw in a B flat. So if you are vibrating poverty, you cannot draw in prosperity. And he told us no matter what your financial situation is, you have to start talking about the great financial times to come and the success that you're going to have to come and paint those word pictures and you'll start vibrating that. He said, even go down to Beverly Hills and walk down the street and look at the Rollses and Bentleys and the Mercedes and the big houses and say, and that's for me, and see yourself in those houses. And I thought, you know what I did? I actually went, and I was so broke. All I'd been doing for my entire adult life was teaching meditation and just barely being able to make ends meet. I went to the Mercedes dealership and I got a picture of the Mercedes that I wanted. And I put it up on my bulletin board. Anyway, long story short, I came home from that event and it just struck me. That's why I came to LA, because I was supposed to go to that event. And I'm supposed to be teaching this because I already knew how to teach people how to create inner silence through meditation. But now I found out that there is a systematic way to create outer success. And I thought, wow, now I could teach people the whole package. And so I quit my job the next day. Oh, you quit your job. Remember, I hadn't sold one investment, but I quit my job the next day. And I started studying the great masters of success and prosperity, Napoleon Hill and Wallace Wattles and Florence Scovel Shinn and Earl Nightingale. And I put together a fabulous weekend seminar, called it Yes to Success, launched it. And I mean, there are a lot of other details, like I used what I was learning to create my success. Like, for example, I learned that you don't wait until you think you're ready because you will never think you're ready. Because we live in a relative universe, there are always going to be loose ends. You can't say, oh, I'll start my company when the kids are grown, or when the kids start school, or when the divorce goes through, or I get the inheritance, or my hair turns green. No, if you have an idea, the idea comes to you. I say it's a gift from the creator, because the creator looks down and sees you as a worthy vehicle for manifesting that idea on earth at this time. So the creator obviously chose me to teach these principles of inner and outer success. So who was I to deny my assignment on the planet? And also the idea comes to you at the time when the wind is at your back, the time when the creation needs your idea to work. We're all pieces of the puzzle, and your piece is needed at the time that the idea comes to you. And if you don't take action on it, I mean, you don't have to do it that minute, but you got to start taking steps in the right direction. Then the idea is going to go to the second stringer, because the creator needs it manifested on earth. So I learned all those principles from the great masters. I didn't make them up. I studied. I went to the library and I took out the microfiche and I found all of the, do you know what microfiche is? You're too young.
No, Oh, no, no, no. You're being very nice.
Well, so you remember microfiche, we didn't have the internet.
Yeah.
We didn't, we had to go and really dig and find this stuff. But anyway, I used all of those principles. What is sacred should be kept secret. I didn't go around telling everybody what I was going to do, because all the great masters said you have to keep the steam in the kettle. And if you tell everybody what you're going to do, you're letting the steam out of the kettle. And also you might bump up against the discouragement committee, those people who are going to tell you all the reasons why your idea won't work, who are going to crush your idea when it's a tiny seed. Why would you tell everybody what you're going to do when your seed can be crushed, when the discouragement committee can tell you all the reasons why your idea won't work? So I kept what was sacred, my idea to teach yes to success. What was sacred, I kept secret until I was ready to launch. And then I did. I put up some posters. Debra, my name wasn't Poneman at the time, it was Olson. I've had a few. And anyways, Debra Olson to teach how to say yes to success. And the rest is history. Within the next few years, my seminars were being taught all over the world by reps, and I was teaching in 12 major cities in the US. And within 3 years, I was driving a Mercedes, even though when I started, I was driving a 10-year-old beat up Chevy Bel Air that my aunt had left me when she passed away. God bless her, Aunt Flo. But, and not only was I driving the Mercedes, I was driving the exact Mercedes that I had put the picture up. The mind is a powerful thing to create reality. And I didn't go out and buy that Mercedes. The quick story is that I also got married, and somebody was doing one of those drive-away car things and stopped in the town that I was living in and called my husband and asked if he wanted to buy it. And he called me, said, honey, do you want a Mercedes? And I said, well, what color is it? Because I wanted the navy blue one that was in my picture. He says, well, it's navy blue. I said, oh, okay, I'll take it.
It's like the universe personally, just like at Wallace Waddles. He
Yes.
talked about how if you want a sewing machine back in 1900, someone starts building it over here and this starts happening. And, and I've seen those kind of miracles happen real quickly and then more long-term. And I think, I don't have a vision board right now. I'm in the your year of miracles, and I've got my sticky notes up here, from that. And but I don't have a vision board, and I think I'm going to put it back up, because when I did my last one, it was amazing, just like you said, how the things all fell into place. Even a property that we bought down in Panama, and I just did a picture of a point of all this jungle sticking out in the ocean. And then when we flew down to go visit this place that we were going to look at, that was the picture practically. And we ended up buying, and I didn't really even know this was going to happen. So it really, there's magic to it, but there's also practical things. I always like to combine the spiritual with the practical.
Yeah. And, that's like Johnny Assaraf's story, that he had made a vision board, and then he just put it away in his garage. And, decades later, I think he said 15 years later, he moved and he was going through some stuff, and he pulled out his vision board and he didn't remember putting a picture of a house on the beach, and I think it was Malibu, and he looked and he was living in that house. It cut it out from a magazine like 15 years before. So, vision boards, it may seem like just a fun little parlor game, let's get together and create a vision board. Very powerful.
Yeah. And so that must have stayed in his brain, because, they say what you focus on expands, and, you don't want to focus on what you don't want, because I know I do this. I end up ruminating on something, and then I'm like, this morning I did cancel. Right?
Yeah,
and I changed it. Pardon?
You mentioned your year of miracles, and our wonderful Marcy Scheimoff, when the story about how Marcy and I are the founders of your year of miracles, although I'm not teaching with her anymore, because I went back to my first love, which is teaching yes to success. But when Marcy first took yes to success in the early 1980s, and she actually became my secretary assistant, and a good secretary she was. But her favorite thing out of 2.5 days of teaching yes to success principles was, cancel. Like you say a negative. And then also her other favorite thing is when you see something that somebody else has that you want, instead of begrudging them, like, oh, why did they have that? You know, they're such a jerk and blah, blah, blah. You just say, that's for me. So that's what I did when I saw people in Mercedes. See, I grew up to think, I was taught that rich people were bad. That's what I was taught when I was growing up, very subtly, but I was taught that rich people were bad and they were crooks. And so I found myself looking at people who were driving Mercedes and thinking, oh, well, that's a bad person or that's a crook. And I went, cancel. Yes. That's for me.
You know, it's funny. I have to go back, and I had a conversation with my husband, and I have to go back and change what I said to him, you know? So is it okay to go back later?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Cause I'm going to, and I won't go into the story because it's too personal about somebody. So, but you know, we really have to keep these things top of mind. Yeah. And when we learn these kind of skills, we become so much more confident. And today we're here to talk about this idea of shining and standing in our true power. And I'm so thrilled you came to talk about that. So what is your definition of someone who's standing in their true power, their personal power?
Okay, well, it's not a short answer. Well, you'll notice none of my answers are short answer. You know, as I said, most of my adult life, I've spent teaching seminars on how to create true and lasting success. And the majority of the people who I've worked with from all over the world for the last 40 years have had some success in their life. In fact, they've had some real successes, and some people are super achievers and are very successful in the eyes of the world. But as powerful as people appear on the outside, Katana, and you know this, for many, it's not how they feel on the inside.
Yeah.
On the inside, there is still an emptiness, maybe even like a real gnawing emptiness. And many people believe that when they, you know, when they made their money or they had the recognition or they bought the beautiful home or they became a princess, right?
Right.
That somehow life would be perfect and that emptiness would somehow vanish. And yet when they walked into that new home or down the aisle of Westminster Abbey, it was like walking into one of those houses on a Hollywood movie set. The emptiness was still there on the other side. The new house or the Tesla or even, you know, the best-selling book or the Nobel Prize does not take the emptiness away. The gift of this time on our planet is that we're seeing the fragility of life and we're asking ourselves, what is really important? And we're wanting to live a different kind of success and a new kind of power. And to me, that's the kind of power that comes from being aligned with your own truth. It's the kind that comes from having your inner match your outer. It's the kind that comes from knowing what your real purpose is for being here and following the voice that urges you to do it. It's the kind of power that comes from having integrity, from not saying one thing and being another. That's true power. Because I'll tell you something else, and you know this. Lots of times we think success is based on what other people think about us, but it's really based on what we think about ourselves. And even if we fool everybody into thinking, you know, life is good and I'm this and I'm all that, if you know you're not all that, that is what zaps your power, takes your happiness away. But it
affects our health, doesn't it, Debra?
Absolutely affects everything about your life.
And our joy. Yeah, that's really, it's too bad. You talked about how people see us differently than we see ourselves. When I was a financial advisor at American Express Financial Advisors, that's a mouthful. I was there 20 years. And I remember at one point I was able to get a $10,000 sponsorship from American Express for the Women's Economic Club. So they kind of made me a, you know, big cheese and put me up on the dais and, you know, for panel discussions and always up at the front sitting. And I remember they invited me to, before one of the events, to this little like cocktail hour to meet with the other bigwigs, I guess they call them. And I remember walking around there, and the way they were treating me, they were thinking I was like an executive vice president from American Express, and I was still new in my business. And I remember walking out of that room and just thinking, wow, that's how people see me. And it was such a shift. So does, but I didn't see myself like that yet. I still, saw myself as, who I'd always been. And so then, my goal was to step into that and just show up at that level. And then that's when you begin to step outside the box and stretch a bit, right?
Yeah, I'm going to actually talk about that a little bit later on when I start giving people some tips.
Okay. So with so many of us that are afraid to stand in our personal power, what do you think it is? Do you think it's just limiting beliefs, or what is going on that we're afraid, we're afraid to shine? And I know that happens to me all the time. I do have self-doubt, and I know all of us do, because I know some of the most famous movie stars even, they've talked about it. So what happens here? Why does this happen?
Well, there are so many reasons, but we now live at a time where the only way to create true success and deep fulfillment and genuine happiness and real power, as I said before, it's to go inside, and it's to tap the greatest power we have as humans. And that's the power of self-knowledge and self-love and a deep sense of our own value, no matter how much we gain or lose on the outside. But unfortunately, we've been conditioned to look outside ourselves for validation. Mm-hmm. Right? So we are incessantly comparing ourselves to others. And that's one of the things that takes our power away, especially now with social media. But what people don't understand, Mark Twain once said that comparison is the death of joy. And research has shown that comparing ourselves to people we think are better than us fosters not only a lack of self-love, but can even lead to like depression. And the truth is that when you're comparing yourself to someone, it's like those airbrush models on the cover of the magazines. Oh, yeah. What you're seeing is, it's kind of like on social media. People only share the part of their lives that they want to reveal. It's not the truth. It is like the airbrush covers on the covers of the airbrush models on the covers of the magazine. That isn't what they really look like. But we lose our power when we think that we'll never be that beautiful. We'll never be that happy. That's why we're always shocked when we hear about the suicide of the beaming celebrity who seemed to have it all, or the beaming mom down the street with the perfect kids. Best-selling author.
They're just the children themselves this is happening to. It's just so devastating.
Because we believe what we see on social media. We believe that those people's lives are perfect. And best-selling author Steve Furtick, I don't know if you know him, but I love his writing. He said the reason we struggle with insecurity is because we compare our behind the scenes with everyone else's highlight reel. And it's funny because as a speaker, we make our highlight reel. We have had those times where we have fallen on our faces when we've given a talk. We have times, a friend of mine had a time like in the middle of one of her talk to 1,000 people, she had to run out of the room because she had diarrhea, but we don't put that up. We put our highlight reel and we got the standing ovation. And then people think, oh, I can't become a speaker because look at them. That's like, 1 minute of thousands of hours. So right. we also compare ourselves. This is really sad, to people we see as less than ourselves because it gives us a boost. We take pleasure in someone else's lack or weakness or misfortune, or my kids got more awards than your kids, or my kid went to Harvard and yours went to junior college. But there is always going to be a backlash when you have that kind of thinking, because the wheel of karma turns, and then we end up feeling a greater emptiness than ever before. So here's what I teach.
Okay.
If you have to compare yourself to yourself. And that's the only way you're going to have true power.
So how do we do
I'll
that?
tell you how. How have I improved myself since last year?
Okay.
What new risks have I been willing to take these days? What negative behavior have I let go of? How have I increased the acts of kindness? How have I been more vulnerable and less from the ego? You see, so what we do, a lot of people, they put like we do miracles journal, and your miracles, or people do their success journal. I say, make a journal of all the ways that you've improved yourself. How, like you said earlier that from taking my course, Yes to Success, that people have even commented on you. Write down those ways that you've changed. That's what really boosts your ego, not reveling in someone else's misfortune, because then the wheel of karma is going to come back and smack you. But when we compare ourselves with someone else, it's not only a waste of time, but you know what? You weren't born to be them. You were born to be you. I love the story of the great 18th century Kabbalist, Rabbi Zusha. I'm always quoting from Kabbalah, as you know. And he said, when I go to heaven, God will not ask me, why were you not more like Moses? Why were you not more like Abraham? God will only ask me, why were you not more like Zusha? All we have to do is be authentically ourselves. And you are going to start to have so much self-love. I was just on a...
And it's scary though, address that. It's very scary to be yourself. And I'm writing something right now, I'm working on a book, and I have a story in the introduction, but the story I really want to tell, I'm afraid to tell. So how often does that happen?
let me tell you. Okay, I'm going to give you an example, because this just happened right before I got on this interview. Okay, I was on a call with a friend of mine who just wrote a book, and this is her book called School Disrupted, and it's about rediscovering the joy of learning during pandemic. It's an amazing book that will help people who are homeschooling their kids, because they have to for the first time. And there were a bunch of people on this call, and I was speaking on it. And I said this sentence. I said, yeah, and those people who are on these panels, and they're not even moms, and they're giving us, moms or dads, and they're giving us parenting advice. And then I went on, and afterwards I thought, I can't believe I said that, because there are brilliant people who can give us parenting advice. You don't have to be a parent to give parenting advice, but the reason why I said that is because the other day I was on a panel where, someone was on a panel, I said something to them, and they said, well, I know what it's like to be a parent. I mean, don't think I don't, because I have Bijou. And Bijou is the name of her dog.
Right.
And like, that was the reason why she felt that she knew what it was like to be a parent, because she had a dog. Now, I have my Ranger, okay? I know what it's like to be a dog parent and a parent. I can't put my kids in a kennel if I want to.
Just like I did, shut them outside my office.
And you can't put them in their little cage. And I mean, it's a lot different, right? However, that, and I was still raw from that kind of I don't think so. But, and here's why I want to tell you this story, because I made that statement, and I was on a panel today, and I was an expert, and people were looking at me as an expert. And when I thought about it a little bit further down into the talk, I said, I just want to say something. I want to apologize. I want to apologize that I said, and these people who aren't even parents are in panels about parenting. And I know that there are brilliant experts who aren't parents on parenting. And I mean, not only do they have nieces and nephews and godchildren, or their teachers, but you don't have to have cancer to be a cancer specialist, right? You can learn, you can study, you can observe. And
And
I,
you were a child.
pardon?
And you were a child.
We're a child, right? But the point of this is that I had to be very vulnerable.
Mhm.
And after I mean, it was hard to say, I'm really sorry. I said something really stupid and I was the expert. The
Mhm.
reason why I'm sharing with you is if I had gone back and or not said anything about it because I didn't want to look like I was wrong, that would have been coming from the ego. And what I'm saying is right now in 2021, people can sense inauthenticity a mile away. When somebody is speaking, leading a course or a seminar or a Zoom or on the stage, whatever, and they're saying one thing and you could just feel in your bones that they aren't living what we couldn't feel in our bones years ago, but I think the veil is thinner now.
Oh,
Right? Am I right?
can I share something? That I've been
Please.
watching all these, webinars recently, and I watched one with one of these real big marketing coaches, right? And so she did the webinar, the PowerPoint. She was live, and there was 500 people, or maybe 800 people that were on it, and she just sounded so disconnected. But she was saying how when you learn these secrets, you are going to be so successful, and you're going to have and I won't call the name of but these best clients and high income and all this stuff. And I just felt like it was so hollow. And then when she finally came on at the end, I just felt so sad for her because she seemed so exhausted and drained. Like she's working so hard and this isn't what she thought she was going to end up doing.
Oh, that's interesting.
Wow, it was like, you're right, all this stuff. And and then I saw in the right column, someone saying, I just don't know if I can afford to go into debt to get another program, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is so sad. This is going on in the world. All these people wanting. And, there are really great people out there, but then, there are just, I think people that have programs that are, I don't know, maybe part of the people will get something out of it, but it's very sad. But you could just feel this person was just not happy and drained, but pretending.
But I think that what could have worked for that person if she was unhappy and drained is is being vulnerable and honest. Those are the most powerful things we could do right now, is to be vulnerable and honest. And she could have said, you may notice that I look a little tired and I have things going on in my life, but I want you to know that even when you use my formula, I promise that you will get more clients. I promise that you will make more money because it is work for me, even when I'm this tired.
Oh, and Deborah,
Even,
that's so important because I just judged. I
right?
judged. And it's COVID and who knows what's going on. So
Right,
see,
who knows what's going, but the point is that like you said, oh, you're writing a book and you don't want to include the thing that the books that are going to be the most successful are the ones that are the most vulnerable. The people who are going to be the most esteemed, I mean, truly esteemed, are the people who, as my friend Janet Atwood said, are the teachers living their teaching.
hmm, absolutely. Whew, wow, that's a lot, isn't it? Oh, so that's beautiful. And one of the things that I've noticed too, that women really seem to handle power differently than men. And why is that? There is such a difference in how women and men stand in their power, and it has to be how we were raised, and maybe part of it is just who we are as women.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. The reason why we acquiesce, we're contrite, we're apologetic is because we watched our moms and the female role models. I mean, I was a child of the 50s and 60s. My mom was the quintessential housewife. And even though she was valedictorian of high school class, even though her mom died when she was 9 and she had to raise her little brother but she went to work after school and worked until midnight and blah, 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 blah. And still she was a housewife, and there's nothing wrong with being a housewife, let me tell you, because you know my story. I actually gave up my career to be home with my kids for 21 years. But I am glad you asked that question, because I would love to share with our listeners some things that they can do to own more of their power in this still male dominated glass ceiling society in which we live. Can I share some things?
Absolutely. That'd be great. I think it's time to take some notes too.
Okay. Well, there's an article in Forbes about 10 years ago, and that I love to quote from. They listed ways that we can stop being so accommodating and start growing in our power. And they said that there were things that we could do on the outside. And if we did these things on the outside, it would actually affect inner changes. They also said if we did these things, it would make a big difference in the way we're perceived. So by ourselves and also by other people. And one was, okay, drum roll, please. Get rid of the word just. I'm going to give you an example. Oh, I'm just checking in to see. No, I'm checking in to see.
Wow.
And I'll give you some more words. I just want you to know. I want you to know. And there is a survey or some research that was done that women say just as a qualifier, like, 500 times more. I don't remember the number, so I won't pretend that I do, more than men. Men say, I want you to know. Women say, I just want you to know. Men say, I called because. Women say, I just called because. Okay. Impact of eliminating that one word. So let's make it, I don't even know if there's a chat. Let's make the commitment. We get rid of the word just. And I did it, and it was scary because it's crazy how just taking out that.
So how about with email versus speaking? How does it show up? Right?
No,
That's just in all the time. Just be polite.
Yeah, polite.
Really,
yeah, polite and
apologizing.
Right. Okay. So there's more. There is also an article in the Harvard Business Review about replacing weak, meaningless words with stronger ones. I think the author's name is a while ago. I read it, Jerry something Wiseman, something like that. And he talked about how a simple word replacement can change the power of a communication. He said, instead of saying, I think, and I believe, we should opt for stronger options like, I'm confident that. Instead of, well, I believe that this would really work. I'm confident that this will really work.
Well, belief is a strong word, but apparently,
well,
not as
strong as belief.
I know this will work. And what was the other one you said?
Well, no is a little bit different because you don't really know, but I'm confident that this, or I'll give you an example. Instead of, I feel like that would happen, we might want to say, I expect that could happen. I feel like that could happen is a weaker word than I expect that could happen. So just little replacements can make a difference in how our message is perceived. Now, like you say, we don't want to be bullies. Okay. We don't want to be right at all costs. We don't want to be like the boss and the devil wears Prada, but we also want to stop wimping around. And another thing we tend to do as women is we tend to consistently apologize, even when it's not necessary. Have you noticed that men don't do that?
Right.
I mean, if they do, they're perceived as weak. I mean, saying you're sorry just unnecessarily puts you in a subservient position. So watch when you apologize. And I'd say eliminate the phrase, I mean, like I apologize during this talk I gave today, but I'm so sorry. Were you busy? I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Was that out of place? I'm sorry. Just stop it.
Yeah.
You can even say, oh, did I speak out of place?
Yeah.
But not, I'm so sorry. Did I speak out of place? It sounds sexist, but it is a female thing. We were raised to be that way. And many of us in the workplace have experienced one more thing, and that is letting people take credit for your ideas.
I had that happen. Yeah.
Have
I
you
had
done
that
that?
happen to me and I quit my job because it was a huge thing I did. And my boss, they wrote it up in the newsletter that, I mean, it was this, there was this big file cabinet with all these flyers that came back with surveys. And so I said, what are they sitting there for? I don't know. I'm in the art department, right? And I said, why don't we, publications in art? And I said, why don't we add them up and see what we get? And so I did a graph and I came up and they showed it to our executive vice president, right? And he said, oh, we have a new forecasting tool. And the art director, he graphed it with the tape. In the old days, they had that sticky tape that they would use and press on letters and everything. And I'm sitting there and it was an engineering company. So I ended up leaving, but I thought, I cannot believe that this man did not even, say, how did this happen, right? And I never really said a word about it, but I ended up leaving and going into sales, door to door, calling on businesses, something very brave, very brave. But
Yes, very brave.
when I was only in early 20s, so, but to see that happen, and I guess that could happen anywhere, but.
Oh, it happens all the time. And I actually have a solution. I have something that people could try on, see if it works.
Really? Good.
Okay.
Let's have it.
So you bring up a point in a meeting and you're ignored. Nobody notices. Later, someone else, more often than not, a man, sorry, will repeat your thought and people will applaud his great idea. See, when you stay silent and you let others take credit for your ideas, bam, you just give your power away. So I say, take back the credit. And here's how you do it. You say, thank you, John, for bringing up that idea that I proposed earlier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And he can't lie and say, no, you didn't, because he knows for a fact that he heard it from you. But again, it's powerful. Thank you, John, for bringing up that idea that I proposed earlier. Perhaps people didn't hear when I said it. You could even say that, or you don't even need to. So just a few little things that we can start out with. Our language, not apologizing, don't let other people take credit for your ideas. And anyway.
And let's just expand on that too for people listening. How important is it to watch our words, and our thoughts? And because when we're thinking and when we're speaking, I mean, we're actually manifesting things out there. We don't realize that, whether it's good or bad. I mean, the good things, that's great. But, I said something to my husband because, I haven't been able to walk. I had foot surgery. And so this is going into the second month that, my husband's been waiting on me. And I said, Mark, you've never had a broken bone or anything. And I mean, I really have had like a bunch of surgeries in the last couple of years. And I said, I wish you could just experience this and see what it's like. And then I said, that's the thing. I said, cancel. Because I thought the last thing I want is for something to happen to him, because that's not what I meant, but that's what I said. I didn't want him to really have it happen. But how important is it to watch what we say?
Well, have I ever shared with you, have you ever heard my near-death experience where I actually saw the power of the words, like from the other side? Yeah. Have you heard that?
Yeah, I would love you to share that. So, because I think that's so powerful.
Yeah, well, the story, I'll spare you all of the gory details, but I became sick. I remember it was a Monday and I wasn't really sick. I just had a little bit of a scratchy throat. I felt a little fluey, but usually I take my zinc, I take my C, I take my echinacea, load myself up with electrolytes and not Gatorade, but sugar-free electrolytes. And because bacteria feeds on sugar, so you don't want to do sugar-filled electrolytes. That was a word from our sponsor. But usually I just take those things and I feel fine. I never, ever really get sick. Nothing like really takes hold. But that week, it was crazy because no matter what I did and how much of echinacea and vitamin C I took, it wasn't doing the trick. And by the end of the week, it was Saturday, and I was lying in bed and I had the thought, I am sicker than I have ever been in my life. And I think I could die here. I was living alone at the time because my husband and I were separated. And so I did what any intelligent person would do. I'm not recommending this. I called my favorite healer.
Mhm.
And I said, I could barely speak. I said, I am really sick. And I said, you need to help me. He said, okay, I'll help you, but you have to promise you'll do exactly what I tell you to do. And I said, anything. He said, call 911 immediately.
Wow.
So I couldn't even dial the phone at that time or press the
Mm.
button to open my eyes. So he called 911, and what do you call it? The ambulance arrived. They had to break down the door because I couldn't even get out of bed or break in the door. And they said to me, what hospital do you want to go to? And I whispered, Evanston. And they decided that they couldn't afford the 11 minutes to get me to Evanston Hospital because they didn't think I would make it. So they took me to this little cute little hospital around the corner, and I'm in the ER and I'm on the gurney, and they are hooking me up to every tube and every monitor imaginable. And my blood pressure was like 52 over 28. I mean, it was, and also it turned out that I had what's called a sepsis.
Yeah.
And it's when these deadly bacteria get into your blood. I just come back from a developing country. And about 50% of the people who have an advanced sepsis don't make it. And I had 2 bacteria in my blood.
Oh.
And so anyway, I'm lying there and they're all rushing around trying to save my life. And I start going to the other side. And I find myself hovering in between this place between life and death. And I notice that when my eyes were open, I could see everybody running around the room trying to save my life. When my eyes were closed, I could see everybody running around the room trying to save my life. But I also saw something additional, and that was that there was this beautiful radiant light that was guiding every single thing that was going on in the room. And just the way that the nurses move their hands, and the way, and I remember one of the nurses trying to hang up an IV bag, and she drops it and everybody shoots through these daggers. But I saw something else, and that is, how people say, oh, there are no mistakes in the universe. I saw that there are no mistakes in the universe, that this light was orchestrating everything in perfection.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that when she bent down to pick up the IV bag off the gurney, another nurse was able to see a monitor, and she ran to the other side of the room. She moved something on the monitor that probably saved my life. So I'm lying there and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, it is true. There are no mistakes in the universe. And then I'm still hovering in this very interesting place between life and death. And my former husband, who I was separated from, but still my dear, dear friend, had come in, and it didn't look like I was going to make it. And I saw him with like tears rolling down his face. And I saw a nurse go over to him and put her hand on his shoulder and say to him, don't worry, she's going to be fine. And there is no reason at that point for her to say that. But I saw, Katana, that when those words, she's going to be fine, came out of her mouth, they went into my body and they strengthened every cell in my body. Her words made me fine. And I'm lying there, I'm thinking, I have been teaching the power of your words for the last, 35 years it was at that point. And now I have this proof. I'm seeing it with my own inner eye. She said she's going to be fine, and it gave me all my strength back. And then a few minutes later, the doctor came in, looked at the monitors, and in this really gruff voice said, get her blood pressure up or we are going to lose her. And when he said we're going to lose her, I saw this gunk come out of his mouth, accompanying his words. It was like brown and gray, and it smelled like a swamp, and it went out of his mouth and it went into my body, and it took all of my strength away. And I remember lying there, and I made a deal with God. I said, God, let me live, because I want to tell people how truly powerful their words are. Catherine Ponder says, your word is your wand. Your word is your wand. People say your words have power over life and death. Your words have power over life and death. The Bible says, thou shalt decree a thing and it shall be added unto you. It doesn't say thou shalt decree a thing and give it a chance, it might be added unto you. No, the Bible says you say something, it will be added unto you. And I also promised at that moment, I said, and I promise I will never again say anything that I don't want to happen. And including things like, oh, my daughter is so this and my son is so this. And, I don't say this, but, he'd forget his head if it wasn't screwed on, those things that we say about our kids.
Right.
I promise I would never do that again, because I realized every time I said something about my children, I was just making it happen. I was just strengthening that thing that I wanted to unstrengthen. And well, the good news is I lived.
Obviously.
And the other good news is that now I can teach people with so much authority that what you decree, absolutely, it's just like in the movie What the Bleep. If you've ever seen the movie What the Bleep,
Oh,
they
yeah.
prove scientifically not only just the power of your words, but the power of your thoughts, that your thoughts can actually move matter. So do you want your thoughts moving matter in the direction of more power, more success, more happiness, more joy, more love? Or do you want to keep saying those things that you don't want in your life? It's up to you.
That is so powerful. And that's why, I think, I mentioned my family mentioned to, my husband and then my assistant, actually, I've seen such a huge difference. And it's just, I've been doing personal development again. I think I went into a funk with COVID and I just stopped. And having someone there, to help support you and teach you new things. And, hearing the story, it really made me think about my words. And I've been much more careful about words and thoughts. So
and that's why community is important too.
Yeah.
And that's why when I teach Yes to Success, we have our Facebook community, we have our mastermind groups, because supporting each other, because it's easy to slip away and start saying negative things when you're off on your own. So the community is so important to support one another.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So we are, we're at the top of the hour.
How did that happen?
So anyway, we were going to share the three keys to personal power. And I also want to make sure you share with everyone about Yes to Success. How would you like to wrap? We have, 2 minutes here. So.
Okay, we only have 2 minutes. Well, I think that I have shared a lot more than 3 keys for personal power. I was going to talk also about the need of women to be liked. Just, okay, bottom line to that, forget about it. It's not going to get you anywhere, that women thing, that likability thing. I think that once we begin to live with a profound connection to our power within, then what I love about it, then we're not afraid to share power with others. We don't feel threatened by other people's success. In fact, we rejoice in it. And one of the ways to develop that power within is to start rejoicing in other people's success, even if you don't feel it yet.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a speaker. If I see somebody get a gig that I would have liked, instead of so happy, and find something good about the speech that they give, and tell other people how great their speaking is, truthfully, because what you're going to find is that when you're able to do that for others, then that's when people are going to respect you, and you will effortlessly have influence and support, and not only from others, but from all the energies of the universe. And that's the new kind of power.
Oh, that is just so beautiful. Well, I want everyone to know about your program, because it is so life-changing and it's joyful, and you are so authentic, and you have like hundreds and hundreds, thousands of people, that are following you and being in these courses. So can you just tell us how people can join with you? I know you have an ebook, and we can send them to the website, because.
Yes. Why don't people just go to Yes to Success, YESTO, not the number 2, yes to success.com/ebook. And then you'll get this ebook, which is the 5 keys to living a life of true success, where I share 5 more keys. And then if you get the ebook, then I'll send you the information about my upcoming Yes to Success course. It's so coincidental, because I'm starting one April 1st, and I only do it once a year, and it just happens to be coming up. So
so exciting. Good. We'll share all this on the social media too. So
thank you.
So wonderful. And I am so thrilled that you came here and shared your message, because this is so inspirational, especially during these difficult times for everyone who's listening live. So thank you so much for being
And
here.
thank you for
Debra.
Smart Woman Talk Radio and all of the Smart Woman, all of the material and all of the other courses. It is such a gift, and you're a gift.
Thank you so much. Okay, everyone. And we've got Rhonda Britton coming in a couple of weeks, Fearless Living. We're so excited, and she'll be talking about power. And for those who want to come join us, it's joinsmartwomen.com. And until our next show, go out and live with more purpose, passion, and prosperity.